No one dared approach. The human soldier laughed and sat down beside her. The desert of Viridian 7 stretched endlessly, a sea of red sand and jagged rocks. The wind carried small storms that stung the skin, and the sun burned hot above, making the world shimmer. The outpost looked lonely, a few metal buildings scattered among the cliffs, with alien guards patrolling silently. Zara sat at the edge of a high cliff, her glowing armor catching the light of the sun. She did not move much, only occasionally shifting her gaze across the desert. Her eyes were sharp, focused, and yet distant, as if she was always thinking about some battle that had happened long ago. She was alone, and that was how she liked it. The other alien soldiers avoided her completely. They whispered her name in fear. Some said she had powers no one could fight. Others said she had killed more enemies than anyone dared to count. No one approached her, and no one sat near her. Even the commander, a tall alien named Karan, gave her a wide berth when passing. From a distance, a group of human soldiers watched her silently. Their uniforms were dusty, their weapons at their sides. Among them was Ethan Parker, young, strong, and curious. He had trained for years on Earth, learning how to survive in harsh conditions, how to fight in impossible situations, and how to stay calm when others panicked. But this was different. He had never seen fear like this before, not from soldiers and not in the way the aliens were afraid of Zara. "Why does everyone avoid her?" Ethan asked, his voice low so the others could not hear. "She's dangerous," said a female soldier, Lily Grant, her tone nervous. "No one knows what she might do. She doesn't trust anyone and she doesn't need anyone. She kills when she wants." Ethan looked at Zara again. She did not seem dangerous, not really. She looked quiet, sad maybe, or just tired. He could not tell. Ethan's curiosity grew. He had learned to read people, and he had learned to see beyond fear. He had survived situations that many soldiers would have thought impossible. And he knew one thing about humans. Sometimes the bravest thing was just to sit, to listen, to be calm when everyone else panicked. "Watch," he said quietly to Lily. "I'm going to go talk to her." Lily's eyes widened. "Are you crazy, Ethan? She will kill you. Everyone says." "I'm not afraid," Ethan interrupted, smiling faintly. "Just watch." The alien soldiers noticed him as he started walking across the sand. Their eyes widened and they stepped back, whispering to one another. No one moved to stop him. No one dared. Zara's gaze shifted slightly. She had felt someone moving closer, but she did not flinch. She remained seated, watching. She was used to soldiers approaching. Many had come before him, but none had dared to get this close. Ethan walked steadily. He did not raise his weapon. He did not move quickly. He simply walked as if he were walking to sit beside an old friend. "Hello," he said when he reached her. His voice was calm, friendly, almost warm. Zara's eyes flicked to him. She did not answer at first. She did not even move. "I'm Ethan," he said again, smiling. "I've heard a lot about you." Still no answer, just silence. Ethan laughed quietly. It was not a loud laugh, just a soft sound that seemed to float in the hot air. "I guess no one wants to talk, huh?" The alien soldiers behind him whispered in alarm. Some took a step back. Others froze completely. It was unheard of for anyone to speak to Zara this way, let alone laugh in her presence. Zara finally shifted. A small sound escaped her lips, something between a sigh and a growl. She did not move toward him. She did not attack. She simply watched. Ethan sat down beside her without asking. The sand was hot, but he did not care. He settled comfortably, letting the wind blow around him. "You're alone a lot," he said softly. "Must be hard being the one everyone fears." Zara tilted her head slightly. She was cautious, not hostile, but she was watching him carefully. "I'm not here to fight," Ethan continued. "I just wanted to see who you are, not who everyone says you are." The wind blew, and the red sand shifted around them. The alien soldiers continued to watch from a distance, their fear growing. Some whispered among themselves, saying it could not be done. No human had ever approached her willingly. Zara's armor glowed faintly, a soft light that moved with her breathing. She had been trained to be a weapon, to be feared, to stay untouchable. No one had ever sat beside her. No one had ever laughed with her. Ethan glanced at her armor and nodded. "Looks uncomfortable. How do you even move in that thing?" Zara blinked. It was a simple question, almost silly, but it made her pause. No one had ever asked her something like that before. Usually people only feared her strength, her speed, her deadly skill. "I move," she said finally, her voice quiet, almost hesitant. "That's it." "You just move?" Ethan asked with a grin. "That sounds easier than everyone makes it out to be." She frowned slightly. The corners of her mouth tightened. She was not used to being treated this way. Most people either cowered or challenged her. This human, he did neither. Ethan looked at the desert stretching before them. I've seen humans survive worse, sandstorms bigger than this, heat that could melt your armor. We still keep going, that's what we do, we survive. Zara studied him, his voice was steady. There was no fear in it, no hesitation. She could feel something in him, something different from other humans she had met, or perhaps other aliens. He was not afraid of her, and that made her uneasy. The sun climbed higher and the desert shimmered with heat. Birds, strange and alien, flew across the sky. Ethan leaned back slightly, relaxed, as if he had all the time in the world. You know, he said softly, it's funny. Everyone talks about you like you're some kind of monster, but here you are just sitting, just being. That's all anyone really wants, right? Just to be left alone sometimes. Zara did not answer immediately. She turned her head slightly, watching him. His words were simple, but they carried weight. Humans, she realized, could see things differently. They were not always about fear or power. Sometimes they were about patience, about understanding, about courage in a quiet way. The alien soldiers continued to watch. Some were shaking. Some could not believe what they were seeing. No one had dared this. No one had ever approached Zara. Ethan noticed their eyes on him, but ignored them. You don't have to answer me, he said. I just wanted to sit here, see what it's like, talk if you want. If not, that's okay too. Zara's breathing slowed. The armor around her glowed faintly, almost soft now. She was not used to this. No one had ever approached her with calmness, with ease, with no fear. Why are you not afraid? She asked finally, her voice quiet. Ethan shrugged. Maybe I am a little afraid, but I've learned that fear doesn't solve anything. Sometimes you just sit down, smile, talk, or laugh. That works too. Zara considered this. She did not know what to make of it. She had lived her life with fear and power, with soldiers respecting her only because of her strength. And now here was a human laughing quietly, sitting beside her. The sun moved across the sky and the two of them stayed there. Ethan did not move. He did not rush her. He did not demand anything. He simply was there, sitting in the desert beside someone everyone else feared. For the first time in a long time, Zara felt something new. Not fear, not anger, not loneliness, something different. Curiosity, perhaps, or maybe trust. Ethan laughed quietly again, the sound light and easy. See, nothing bad happened, I'm still here. Zara blinked. She could feel her armor heating, but not from the sun, from some strange feeling she did not understand. She watched him. She studied him. Slowly, she realized that maybe humans were not so simple, not so weak. Maybe they were brave in ways she had never seen. And in that moment, on the high cliff above the desert, the impossible began. No one dared approach Zara. No one had ever sat beside her. But here was a human, fearless and calm, sitting quietly, smiling, and changing everything she thought she knew about the world. The desert wind blew. The red sand shifted. And Ethan Parker laughed quietly beside Zara, the first human to ever do so, and she did not stop him. The sun sank lower over the desert of Viridian 7, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. The wind still blew, shifting sand across the cliffs, but the heat was softer now. Ethan Parker and Zara remained on the edge of the high cliff. The alien soldiers had retreated, watching from afar, uncertain and fearful. No one dared to come near, but Ethan did not mind. He had learned that patience was sometimes the greatest weapon a human could have. Zara shifted slightly, the glowing light of her armor dimming as the day cooled. She had never had someone sit beside her like this. Soldiers came and went, bowing, giving commands, or keeping their distance out of fear. But this human, he was different. He spoke without fear, without judgment. He simply talked. "What's your name?" Ethan asked, his voice calm. Zara hesitated. She was not used to telling her name to anyone outside her small circle. "Zara," she said finally, her voice soft, almost uncertain. "Zara," Ethan repeated, testing the sound of it. "That's a strong name, fits you." He smiled, looking out over the desert. You know, humans believe names carry meaning. Some names give strength, some give hope. I think yours does both. Zara blinked. She did not know how to respond. She was not used to compliments. People either feared her or ignored her. No one had ever said her name with kindness. "You are quiet," Ethan said, noticing her hesitation. "Do you always sit alone like this?" "I often do," Zara replied. Her voice was quiet, careful. She did not trust easily. No one had ever approached her willingly, and even fewer stayed. Ethan nodded. "I understand." Some humans like to be alone too. Sometimes it's easier to think, to plan, or just breathe. Zara tilted her head slightly. She studied him. His armor was simple, his face calm. He was young, maybe a little younger than she had expected, but there was something steady about him, something she could not ignore. "Why are you here?" she asked after a moment. "Humans usually stay far from our lands. You could leave." Ethan shrugged. "I could. But I like to see things for myself, to understand people, to see the world without listening to rumors. I wanted to see you." Zara frowned slightly. "See me?" "Yes," Ethan said simply. "Not as a weapon, not as someone to fear. I wanted to see you as you." Zara looked down at her hands. Her fingers were long and strong, designed for battle, for control, for killing if needed. Yet she had never thought of herself as anything more than a soldier. The thought that someone might see her as a person confused her. Ethan continued, speaking softly. "You know, humans are strange. We fight wars we cannot win. We survive in places we should die. But sometimes the bravest thing we do is just talk, sit, listen, laugh." Zara's eyes flicked to him. Laugh, humans laughed. She had seen them smile, yes, but laughter, it seemed different. It seemed light, easy, and almost impossible in a world full of danger. Ethan noticed her curiosity. "Do you want me to leave?" he asked gently. "I can go if you prefer." Zara shook her head slightly. "No," she said softly. I do not know why you are here, but you may stay." Ethan smiled, leaning back on his hands. "Thank you, that's all I ask. No fights, no weapons drawn, just conversation." For a while they were silent. The desert stretched before them, vast and empty. The wind whispered over the sand, and the alien soldiers still watched from a distance, unsure of what to do. "You are not afraid," Zara said finally. "All the others, they fear me. Humans, aliens, everyone." Ethan laughed quietly, the sound soft and easy. "Fear is natural. But it doesn't mean you need to be alone. I've seen humans afraid too. Some of us still move forward. Some of us choose to sit beside someone else, even if they are powerful, even if everyone else runs." Zara considered this. She had been trained to be feared, to keep her distance, to fight when necessary, and yet this human sat beside her as if none of that mattered. "Do humans always act this boldly?" she asked, her voice cautious. Ethan shrugged. "Some do, some don't. But humans are unpredictable. We do things others might not expect. We fight, we laugh, we sit beside people no one else dares approach." Zara tilted her head, studying him carefully. "You speak as if courage is simple." Ethan smiled. "It can be. Courage is not about strength or weapons. It's about what you do when fear is in front of you. You can fight, you can hide, or you can sit down and face it quietly." Zara felt a strange warmth in her chest. She did not understand it. She had never felt this before. She had never had someone speak to her with such calm confidence, without fear, without judgment. "Why do you talk to me?" she asked softly. "Because no one else will," Ethan said simply. "I wanted to see the person behind the armor, behind the stories, behind the fear." Zara said nothing. She thought about all the times she had been alone, all the times she had been feared, all the times she had sat silently while others whispered about her strength. This human, he saw something else, something more. "Do you ever fear?" she asked, her voice barely above the wind. "Of course," Ethan said. "Humans fear a lot of things, pain, failure, losing friends, but fear doesn't stop us. Sometimes we use it, sometimes we move anyway. That's what makes us human." Zara nodded slowly. She did not fully understand it, but she could feel it. There was a difference between fear that paralyzed and fear that pushed someone forward. This human, he had the second kind. "You speak strangely," Zara said after a moment, a hint of a smile in her voice. "For someone so young, you speak with the weight of someone much older." Ethan shrugged again, smiling faintly. "Maybe, or maybe I've just learned that life is short, and if you sit around worrying all the time, you miss everything else." Zara considered this. She had spent her life preparing for war, for battle, for survival. And now, she was sitting beside someone who did not care about war, at least not in the same way she did. Someone who saw value in small moments, in conversation, in understanding. The wind shifted again, blowing sand over the cliff. Ethan leaned back, relaxed. "You know," he said softly, "you don't have to be alone all the time. People, humans, aliens, we can surprise you. Some of us are brave enough to sit beside you without fear." Zara felt a strange feeling rise in her chest. Was it trust? Curiosity? Something she could not name? She had never experienced this before. No one had ever sat beside her willingly. No one had ever spoken to her like this. "You are unlike any human I have met," she said quietly. Ethan laughed softly. "I'll take that as a compliment." Zara's eyes flicked to him, studying his calm face, his steady eyes, his quiet smile. She realized something slowly. Humans were strange creatures. They were small, weaker than many alien species, and yet they had a courage she could not ignore. The alien soldiers watched from a distance, still whispering. Some could not believe what they were seeing. A human had approached Zara. A human had sat beside her. A human had laughed with her, and she had not attacked. She had not even moved away. Zara took a deep breath. "Why do you not fear me?" she asked again, softly. "Because fear only works if you let it," Ethan said simply. "And I choose not to. I choose to sit beside you instead." For the first time in her life, Zara felt something shift inside her. The armor she wore, the strength she carried, the reputation that made everyone fear her, all of it felt different. Not weaker, not gone, but different. The sun dipped lower, the sky turning darker shades of red and purple. The wind continued to blow, and still, Ethan sat beside her, calm, relaxed, and smiling. Zara realized that maybe humans were not so simple after all. Maybe they were unpredictable, fearless, and capable of seeing things she had never imagined. And as the first stars appeared in the sky, she found herself speaking to him again, slowly, cautiously, but willingly. "Tell me more," she said finally, "about your world." "About humans," Ethan grinned. "I thought you'd never ask." And so they talked. The desert stretched endlessly around them, but for the first time, Zara did not feel alone. For the first time, someone was beside her, not fearing her, not challenging her, just being there. And she began to understand that perhaps courage, kindness, and laughter could be stronger than fear and strength. The alien soldiers still watched, unsure what to do. But they could see it now. Something extraordinary was happening. A human was changing everything, not with a weapon, not with strength, but with simple, quiet courage. And Zara, she was beginning to change too. The next morning, the desert of Viridian 7 was quiet, almost peaceful. The red sand stretched far, and the cliffs cast long shadows. Ethan, Parker, and Zara had returned to the cliff after a night of quiet conversation. Zara felt lighter, calmer, though she did not fully understand why. Ethan sat beside her again, as if the day before had not been strange enough. He shared stories of human life, battles fought on Earth, survival in harsh places, and even small joys like music and laughter. Zara listened, absorbing everything carefully. She had never imagined a human could be so different from the stories she had heard. Suddenly, a sharp sound broke the calm. The wind shifted, carrying the faint roar of engines across the desert. Zara's eyes narrowed. She recognized the sound instantly. It was not human, it was not friendly. "They are coming," she said quietly. Ethan looked up, calm but alert. "Who? Rogues," Zara replied. "A faction from my world. They want to capture me. They want to use me to show power." Ethan stood slowly, scanning the horizon. In the distance, he saw a group of alien ships approaching fast, kicking up clouds of red sand. Their design was jagged and aggressive, their lights glowing with warning signals. Zara's soldiers should have responded immediately, but they did not. They froze, fear visible even from afar. "They are afraid," Zara muttered. "No one wants to fight them." Ethan laughed quietly, shaking his head. "Then we fight," Zara blinked. "Fight, you are just a human, you cannot—" "I've survived worse," Ethan said simply, "and I will not run." Zara's eyes widened slightly. Most humans would have panicked. Most humans would have hidden, screamed, or run, but not Ethan. He was calm, standing with confidence that seemed impossible in the face of danger. The rogue ships landed near the outpost, kicking sand everywhere. Alien figures emerged, weapons drawn, their eyes filled with aggression. They were taller than most humans, stronger, and clearly prepared for battle. But still, the alien soldiers hesitated. No one moved forward. Ethan turned to Zara. "Stay close, we will handle this." Zara was shocked. "Handle this? You cannot defeat them alone." "I don't need to," Ethan said calmly. "I just need to survive long enough for us to work together." The rogue aliens moved forward, stepping through the red sand. Their weapons glowed with energy, and their voices carried orders in sharp, harsh tones. The soldiers of Zara's outpost flinched, unsure of what to do. Some wanted to retreat. Some wanted to fight, but fear froze them. Ethan took a deep breath. "Okay, let's do this." He drew his weapon not with haste, but with careful, controlled movements. His eyes scanned the enemy, reading their positions, noting their patterns. He did not panic. He did not shout. He simply moved with skill and precision. Zara felt something shift inside her. She had never seen a human so calm under pressure. Most humans would have been screaming or hiding. But Ethan, he was focused, prepared, and fearless. The rogue aliens noticed him, their expressions turning to surprise. "A human," one of them barked. "You dare?" Ethan laughed quietly. "Dare, maybe, or maybe I just don't care." Zara watched him, her heart beating faster. She had trained for years, preparing for battle, preparing to be feared. And here was a human, standing boldly in front of danger, not afraid. She felt an unexpected respect for him, one she could not explain. The first attack came quickly. Energy blasts shot across the desert, kicking up sand and rocks. The alien soldiers of the outpost froze, unsure how to respond. Ethan moved forward, dodging with skill, shooting carefully, hitting targets with precision. Each movement was controlled, calculated, and efficient. Zara realized she had a choice. She could stay hidden as she had always done, or she could act. For the first time in years, she did not hesitate. She moved. Her armor glowed brightly, and she struck with deadly precision, taking down the rogue attackers. Her movements were fluid, practiced, and terrifying to watch. Ethan noticed her skill, but he did not stop. He continued to fight, coordinating with her without words. They moved together almost instinctively, covering each other's weaknesses, taking down enemies one by one. The rogue aliens were shocked. No human had ever fought like this, and Zara, usually feared even by her own people, was now fighting beside a human as if he were equal, as if he were not to be underestimated. The battle raged on. Energy blasts lit up the desert, sand flew in every direction, and the wind carried the sounds of fighting across the cliffs. But through it all, Ethan remained calm. He never panicked. He never shouted. He simply moved with skill, using his knowledge and instincts to survive and protect. Zara's soldiers began to watch more closely. Fear was still there, but something else emerged: curiosity, confidence, perhaps even hope. They saw their legendary warrior fighting beside a human, and the human was holding his own. And more than that, she was smiling slightly, a rare expression that had not been seen in years. As the battle reached its peak, the rogue aliens began to falter. Their coordinated attack weakened under the strange and unexpected alliance between Zara and Ethan. The human's courage was infectious, and Zara's skill was unmatched. Together, they formed a force the rogue aliens could not anticipate. One by one, the rogue aliens retreated, their engines roaring as they lifted off the sand and fled into the distance. The desert grew quiet again, only the sound of the wind and the distant cries of retreating ships. Zara turned to Ethan, her armor dimming slightly as she lowered her weapon. "You survived," she said softly, disbelief in her voice. Ethan smiled, wiping dust from his face. "I told you, humans survive and we fight when it matters." Zara studied him carefully. She had always believed humans were fragile, weak, and unpredictable. And yet here was a human who had faced impossible odds with calm courage, who had fought beside her as an equal, and who had not flinched once. "Why did you risk yourself?" she asked quietly. "You could have been killed," Ethan shrugged. "Because someone needed to stand, because you deserved someone who wouldn't run, and because I don't like seeing fear control everything." Zara was silent for a long moment. She realized something important. Humans were not as weak as she had thought. They were unpredictable, brave, and capable of doing what many others could not, even when it seemed impossible. The alien soldiers, who had watched from a distance, began to move closer slowly. Their fear had not disappeared entirely, but it had lessened. They looked at Ethan with a mixture of awe and confusion, and they looked at Zara differently too, noticing her calm, her focus, her rare smile. Zara finally spoke again. "You are not like the others." "I do not understand you," Ethan laughed softly. "I don't expect you to. That's what makes humans humans. We are strange, we are bold, and sometimes we survive because we try things no one else will." The desert grew quiet again, the wind shifting the sand across the cliffs. Zara lowered her weapon fully and sat down beside Ethan, her breathing slowly returning to normal. For the first time in years, she did not feel the weight of fear. She did not feel the need to be untouchable. "You fought well," she said softly. "Better than anyone I have seen." "Even me," Ethan shrugged, smiling faintly. "I did what needed to be done, and I had a good partner." Zara blinked. She had never thought of a human as a partner. Humans were fragile, weak, unpredictable. And yet here was one who had fought beside her, survived, and changed her perspective in one day. The rogue aliens were gone. The outpost was safe, but something more had changed. Zara's view of humans had shifted. Fear was still there, but respect had taken root. And for the first time, she realized that courage did not come from strength alone. It came from action, from calm in the face of danger, from willingness to stand beside someone when everyone else ran. Ethan sat back down beside her. See, nothing impossible. Just courage, patience, and a bit of stubbornness. Zara laughed softly, a sound rare and almost musical. She had not realized she could feel joy in the midst of battle. She had not realized she could trust someone so quickly. And yet she felt it now, sitting beside a human who had faced impossible odds and survived, not because of strength, but because of courage. The desert of Viridian 7 stretched endlessly around them. The sun was lower now, casting long shadows across the cliffs. But for the first time, Zara did not feel alone. She had a human beside her, not fearing her, not challenging her, just standing with her. And she realized something she had never thought possible. Humans were not weak. Humans were brave. And sometimes the bravest thing of all was simply to stand beside someone else, no matter the danger. Ethan laughed quietly again. You see, not so scary, right? Zara smiled, still unsure why, but she knew something important. The impossible had happened. She had fought beside a human and survived. And that human had changed her, perhaps forever. The desert of Viridian 7 was quiet again, but the air felt different. The rogue aliens had fled, their retreat leaving only whispers behind. The red sand shifted slowly in the wind, and the outpost seemed calmer now. Yet a strange tension lingered. Alien soldiers had watched Ethan Parker and Zara fight together, and their fear had begun to mix with something else, curiosity and even respect. Zara sat on the cliff, her glowing armor dim now as she removed her helmet. The wind blew her dark hair across her face, and she stared out over the desert, thinking. She had always been alone, always feared, always seen as untouchable. Yet in one day, a human had sat beside her, laughed with her, and fought beside her without hesitation. She could not understand it, but she could feel it. Ethan leaned back on his hands, relaxed, brushing sand from his uniform. His eyes were calm, yet alert, watching her carefully. You're quiet, he said softly. Thinking, Zara nodded. I never expected someone like you to be here, to stay, to fight beside me. Ethan shrugged. I've learned that humans do strange things sometimes. We survive, we fight, we connect, and some of us refuse to let fear control us. Zara's eyes narrowed. Connect, you speak of connection, but humans are weak. You are fragile compared to my people. How can you survive? Ethan smiled faintly. Strength isn't just about muscles or weapons. Strength is about will. It's about standing when everyone else runs. It's about courage, patience, and sometimes trust. Zara turned her gaze to him. Trust. She had not trusted anyone outside her inner circle in years. She had been trained to fear betrayal, to rely only on herself, to keep everyone at a distance. Yet, here was a human who had earned her attention, earned her respect, and even earned her trust in ways she could not explain. You speak strangely, she said quietly. For a human, you seem powerful. Ethan laughed softly. Maybe powerful is not the right word. I'm just determined, and I don't let fear stop me. Zara thought about the battle they had fought together. She had never seen a human face such danger without flinching. He had fought with skill, using his knowledge and instincts, and yet he had not been reckless. Every movement was precise, every decision was careful, and through it all he had survived. You impressed me, Zara said, her voice soft. I did not think a human could do what you did. Ethan shrugged again. I'm glad, but the real story is about teamwork. You and I, we fought together, that's what matters. Zara studied him carefully. She had always believed humans were fragile, unpredictable, and weak. And yet, here was one who had faced impossible odds with calm courage, who had survived, and who had earned her respect. The alien soldiers, still watching from a distance, began to move closer. Their fear had not disappeared, but curiosity had grown. They saw their legendary warrior smiling slightly, relaxed, talking to a human. It was strange, almost impossible, yet it was happening. Zara felt a strange warmth in her chest. She had never felt this way before. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were also brave. They could change perspectives, challenge old beliefs, and even teach lessons without words. Ethan noticed her silence. Thinking about your people? He asked. Zara nodded. They fear me. They respect me only because of my skill, and yet I feel something different now. With you I feel normal, not weak, not strong, just me. Ethan smiled. That's good, you deserve that. Everyone does, even warriors like you. Zara looked at him, curious. How do humans do this? Face danger, survive, and still smile? Ethan laughed softly. We have to. Life is dangerous, death is everywhere, but we learn to find small joys, small victories, and sometimes courage is just smiling when you have every reason to fear. Zara tilted her head. She had never thought of courage like that. She had always believed strength meant weapons, armor, and fear. But this human, he had shown her something different. Courage could be calm, courage could be quiet, courage could be in trust, laughter, and presence. You speak of courage, Zara said slowly. And yet you do not command, you do not demand respect, you simply are, Ethan nodded. Respect is earned, not demanded, and fear is easy to use, but courage is harder. It comes from within, not from what others think. Zara considered this. She had always relied on fear, on her skill, on her reputation. And yet with Ethan, none of that mattered. She felt something new, something she had not felt in years. Trust, companionship, perhaps even hope. You are strange, she said quietly, almost smiling. Not like other humans, Ethan grinned faintly. I'll take that as a compliment. For a long time they sat in silence, watching the desert. The wind shifted the sand and the cliffs cast long shadows. Zara felt calm, something she had not felt in years. She had faced countless battles, fought countless enemies, and yet, sitting beside a human talking quietly had brought her a peace she could not explain. Ethan noticed her change. You're smiling, he said softly. That's rare, Zara blinked. I have not smiled in years. Perhaps it is strange to do so now, with you. Ethan laughed softly. Nothing wrong with that, smiling is a good start. The alien soldiers, still nearby, watched in awe. They had never seen Zara like this. They had never seen her calm, relaxed, smiling, talking to a human. It was impossible, yet it was happening. Zara turned to Ethan. Why do you stay? After all the danger, after all the risk, why do you stay? Ethan shrugged. Because someone should, because I see more than fear. Because I believe in courage, and sometimes because I believe in people. Zara considered this. She had never thought of humans as capable of such determination. She had believed them weak, fragile, and easily broken. And yet here was one who had faced impossible odds, fought beside her, and continued to sit calmly, talking, smiling, and teaching lessons without words. You are unlike any human I have met, she said softly. Ethan smiled. And you are unlike any alien I have met. That's why we make a good team. Zara laughed softly, a sound rare and almost musical. She had never realized she could feel joy in the midst of a dangerous world. She had never realized she could trust someone so quickly. And yet she felt it now, sitting beside a human who had changed her perspective in one day. The desert grew quiet again. The rogue aliens were gone and the outpost was safe. But something more had changed. Zara's view of humans had shifted. Fear was still there, but respect had grown. And for the first time, she realized that courage did not come from strength alone. It came from action, from calm in the face of danger, from willingness to trust. Ethan laughed quietly again. You see, humans are strange. But sometimes we are stronger than anyone expects. Zara smiled, still unsure why, but she knew something important. The impossible had happened. She had fought beside a human, survived, and learned that courage, patience, and trust could be stronger than fear and strength. For the first time, she felt something she had not felt in years, hope. And as the sun sank lower behind the cliffs, painting the desert in warm light, Zara realized that perhaps humans were not weak. Perhaps they were brave. And perhaps she could trust them after all. The desert of Viridian 7 glowed under the rising sun. The red sand shimmered and the cliffs cast long shadows over the outpost. The wind carried a soft warmth, and the air felt lighter than it had in years. For the first time, Zara did not feel the weight of fear pressing on her. She had survived battles, ruled with strength, and earned the fear of her own people. But now, beside a human, she felt something new. Ethan Parker stood at the edge of the cliff, watching the horizon. His uniform was dusty from the previous day's battle, his hands still marked with sand and sweat. Yet he stood calmly, relaxed, as if the danger that had come before had never existed. Zara watched him, amazed. Humans were unpredictable. Weak in appearance, yes, but brave beyond measure. You've changed my view, Zara said softly, her eyes following him. Of humans, of trust, of courage. Ethan smiled faintly. I didn't do much, I just didn't run, and I sat beside you. Zara laughed quietly. The sound was rare, musical, and almost fragile. Sitting beside me, it was enough to change everything, Ethan shrugged. Sometimes the simplest things are enough. Humans survive in strange ways, and we learn from each other. Courage isn't just in battle. It's in standing by someone even when everyone else runs. Zara turned to him, her dark eyes thoughtful. I have lived my life surrounded by fear. I have trained to be untouchable to keep people at a distance, and yet you showed me that strength can be different. That courage can be calm, that trust can exist. Ethan nodded. It can, and it does. You just need someone willing to see it, someone willing to stay. For a moment, silence fell between them. The desert stretched endlessly, red sand shimmering in the sunlight, the wind whispering softly. Zara felt the emptiness of the cliffs fade. For the first time, she felt not alone. She had someone beside her, someone who did not fear her, someone who had changed her perspective on the world. The alien soldiers who had watched from a distance began to move closer. Their eyes reflected awe and curiosity. They had never seen their legendary warrior like this, calm, relaxed, smiling, talking to a human without fear. Something inside them shifted. Fear began to mix with respect. Respect for Zara, yes, but also for the human beside her. One of the soldiers, a young female named Lyra, stepped forward cautiously. Zara, she said softly, the outpost, it is safe. Because of him? Zara nodded slightly. Yes, because of him and because we fought together. Lyra blinked. I have never seen a human like this. Brave, calm, unafraid. Ethan laughed quietly, shaking his head. We are strange, yes, but sometimes we do what others cannot. Sometimes we survive, and sometimes we change minds. The soldiers murmured among themselves. Fear was still there, but it had lessened. They saw that Zara's strength was not only her own. Courage could exist in others too, and humans could be a force no one expected. Zara looked at Ethan. I have ruled my people with fear. I have been alone for years, and yet now I feel something new. Something I have never known, respect, trust, perhaps even hope. Ethan smiled. That's good, you deserve it, everyone does, even warriors like you. The desert stretched endlessly before them, red sand moving with the wind. Zara's armor glowed faintly, but her expression was soft. She had always believed strength meant being untouchable, feared, impossible to reach. And yet, a human had shown her that strength could also mean courage, patience, and trust. You have taught me something, Zara said softly. That courage does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it laughs quietly beside you. Ethan grinned. Exactly. Courage is not only in weapons or battle. It's in standing beside someone, being calm, being present. It's in surviving when others would run. Zara nodded slowly. She realized that humans were not weak. They were unpredictable, yes, and fragile in appearance, but brave, strong in ways she had never imagined. And courage could take many forms. The alien soldiers began to approach the outpost now more confidently. They no longer hesitated completely. They saw that fear was not the only way to act. They saw that courage could inspire, that humans could fight beside them, and that Zara's strength was not just in her skill, but in the ability to trust. Zara stood slowly, brushing sand from her armor. She turned to Ethan. We should return to the outpost. My people, they need to see this. They need to learn that fear is not always the answer. Ethan nodded. Lead the way, I'll follow. Together, they walked back toward the outpost. The alien soldiers stepped aside, some still cautious, but none stopped them. The soldiers whispered among themselves, amazed at the sight of their warrior walking calmly beside a human who had survived impossible odds. Inside the outpost, Zara's presence brought a shift in the atmosphere. She had always been untouchable, feared, impossible to approach. Now she walked with someone beside her who did not fear her, who had fought alongside her, and who had changed everything. Her soldiers looked at her with a mix of awe and uncertainty. Zara, one said softly, the human he fought beside you, and survived. Zara nodded. Yes. And he has taught me something. Courage is not always strength. Courage can be calm, courage can be trust, courage can be quiet, and sometimes it can come from humans. The soldiers murmured among themselves. Fear was still present, but respect was growing. They saw now that humans could be more than fragile creatures. They could inspire. They could change minds. They could fight with courage no one expected. Ethan looked around, calm and composed. I'm just a human, he said softly. But humans can do strange things. We survive. We fight, we change things in ways others cannot. Zara studied him, her dark eyes soft. You are more than just a human. You are brave. You are calm. You are remarkable. Ethan laughed quietly. I'll take that, but the real story is about teamwork. You and I, we faced danger together. That's what matters. Zara nodded slowly. She realized that she had learned something important. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were fragile, yes, but they could be brave, strong, and inspiring. And courage could take many forms, not just strength, not just fear, but presence, trust, and patience. The desert outside the outpost shimmered in the sunlight. The red sand shifted with the wind. Zara felt something inside her shift as well. She had fought battles, earned fear, and ruled with strength. And yet now she felt hope. She turned to Ethan. I have always been alone, feared, untouchable, but now I am not alone. You have changed that. Ethan smiled. I'm glad humans survive. And sometimes we leave a mark on the world in ways others cannot see at first, but the mark is there. Zara looked at him, understanding slowly. The mark he left was not on her body or on the battlefield. It was on her mind, on her heart, on the way she saw the world. And it was stronger than fear, stronger than weapons, stronger than anything she had known. You have shown me humanity, she said softly. Not just what humans can do, but what they can teach. Courage, trust, strength beyond the physical. Ethan laughed quietly. That's the human way. We are strange, yes, but sometimes we are everything the galaxy did not expect. Zara smiled, the glow of her armor dimming slightly as she relaxed. For the first time in her life, she felt a sense of peace. She had fought battles, yes, but now she had learned courage in a new way. She had learned trust. She had learned hope. And humans, Ethan Parker, one small human soldier, had taught her that. The outpost grew quiet, the alien soldiers looking on with new understanding. Fear had not disappeared entirely, but respect had taken root. Courage had been shown, not with a weapon alone, but with presence, patience, and calm bravery. Zara turned to Ethan, her expression soft. You are strange, human, but I am glad you are here. Ethan laughed quietly. I'll take that as a compliment. The desert of Viridian 7 stretched endlessly, red sand shimmering under the sun. But for the first time, Zara did not feel alone. She had someone beside her who had changed her view of humans, who had shown her courage beyond fear, and who had left a mark on her that would not fade. She had learned something important. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were brave. Humans could survive. And humans, when they chose, could change even the strongest hearts in ways no one expected. And for the first time, Zara smiled fully, freely, and she knew that humanity had left its mark on her life and on her people forever.